Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of my design studies, hosted by Just Design. Just Design is a community aimed at democratizing design within the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. We do this by hosting a couple of webinars, and we have a couple of series. We have one titled My Design Journey, and this particular one is my design studies. It's the first episode in this series, and interestingly, we are trying to look at the convergence of different fields within the construction industry: architecture, engineering, construction studies. And in this particular case, we are trying to focus on graduate programs in construction, uh, in specific with some kind of uh, insights and experiences from diaspora. And we do hope you have a good time. And today we are having the very first episode, and we have the very first guest, um, a, a young and interesting individual. Her name is Jesumi Gbotosho. She's currently studying MSc Real Estate in Harvard University, and I'm sure our story is one that is both interesting and intriguing. I'm sure we'll learn a lot from her, and there'll be a panel session thereafter, where we have two other persons, Kalumi and Oche Ajoye. They are both studying somewhere in UK and also in Sweden. So the idea is to have diverse experiences, diverse studies in construction, which will help us to, hit some point of conversation and some point of innovation. Thank you very much. After now, you will hear the next voice will be Jesemi's profile. Thank you and welcome.
Jesumi Gbotosho is a budding real estate development and investment professional and an advocate for sustainable and equitable urban development. With a background in architecture, coupled with years of work experience in design, construction, and project management. She is currently pursuing a master's in real estate at the Harvard University Graduate School of Design, where she is focused on the intersection of commercial real estate, sustainability, and social impact. Her journey to Harvard has been one of determination, resilience, and a deep commitment to using real estate as a tool for transformation.
Hi, everyone. I hope we can all hear me. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Dr. Alalade. I am so honored by this invite to share my story and my journey to grad school to pursue an advanced degree. So I'll be sharing my slides and basically taking everyone on this journey with me. So I'll give a backstory to map my journey, towards this point where I'm at. I grew up in Ibadan, Nigeria. I was born and raised in Ibadan. I lived most of my life, a good chunk of my life in Ibadan. And I was quite artistic as a child. I grew up, doing a lot of designing, painting, drawing, just basically anything creative, literally anything creative. I would craft beaded accessories. I will make hats. I was blessed with parents who funded my passion and my talents. They would encourage me to, explore and express my creative self in diverse forms. And I have a picture on the screen right now, the picture in the middle. This painting, I did it like 15 years ago. Um, one of my many paintings, I was that interested and intrigued by art. And um, I really thought I was going to pursue a career in the arts, being an artist, being a fine artist, literally. But um, my parents were able to guide me and literally take me on the journey, on try to basically guide my creative skills. And with my father's influence and his love and all, ended up pursuing a career in architecture. So I studied architecture in Covenant University, where I had my first and my second degrees, both in architecture. And while I was in school, I was still able to express my creative self. I was able to, you know, express myself creatively in other forms that were not necessarily that were not really about painting and drawing and doing the kind of stuff I was doing before. But now I was able to use technology to express myself, which was even more interesting and intriguing for me. And so while I was in school, I remember that I was so intrigued by the field of architecture that I would literally submit myself to mentorship, to students who are better than me, to professors, my lecturers. I would go to their offices to sit down and show them my designs and have them critique my work and, all of those good things. And at the end of the day, all these mentorships and these relationships have come together to form who I am today. On the screen on the right hand side is my master's design thesis, my master's in architecture design thesis. With this project had to do, I designed an ultra modern cathedral. And I remember this project literally took everything from me in terms of creativity. I expressed myself in every way possible. And I specifically put these two pictures here to show like the transition, how my parents and my mentors, academic mentors, were able to shaping my creative skills and divert it into what it is today. Now, why did I choose to um, pursue another degree, especially out of the country? So, like I said earlier on, I submitted myself a lot to mentorship, and I have always been very curious. I would want to read, what is going on, the latest things, especially in the design industry, the construction industry. I was always abreast of, information, and my motivation also started from home. Like I said earlier on, my dad is an architect and um doing very well for himself. My mom, both my parents are professors, so like the standard was already set for the kids. We we grew up in an academic environment, and it was just, I guess it's in the blood to want to do more and be more, And I remember even at a very young age, my dad would be telling me, "Oh, when you do your PhD," and at the time I'd not even gotten my first degree, but that kind of mindset was ingrained into me as a child, and growing up, like, it has formed, a huge chunk of who I am today. So I got my motivation from home. My parents, my dad would buy humongous textbooks, Guinness World Record, encyclopedia, everything, for us to digest and read and literally see that the world doesn't end at the door. There is so much more outside the house. There is so much more outside Ibadan. There's so much more outside Nigeria. There's so much more outside Africa, and so we were literally, my childhood was literally on that foundation, knowing that there is more outside of the four walls of the house, or outside your immediate accomplishment. And that kind of like spurred me to want to explore and see what is out there. And also, I was inspired in Covenant University too. I remember there was a time where in the school, um, the university had these humongous billboards that had the vision of the school. The school wanted to be one of 10 in 10 in a few years, in well, a certain number of years. And there was a particular day, I think I was my fourth year in Covenant University, my undergrad level, my undergrad years, and I was walking back from class, and then I stopped halfway just to digest what was on the board. And I remember seeing the school had drawn up the top 10 universities in the world, had their names. So there was Harvard, there was MIT, there was Stanford, there was Oxford, there was Cambridge, had written it out in all the way and had their logos. And I stood there for quite a while to internalize all of that. And it was at that moment, there and then, I decided that I had always known I was going to pursue multiple degrees, but it was at that moment I knew that I would shoot for the stars, literally. I would aim for all these schools and pursue one of my degrees from these schools. And so those three motivations, my parents, my home, my parents, and my the school I went to, Covenant University, they literally spurred me, and encouraged me to this point where I am today. I was also inspired by people, especially people on LinkedIn. I would look for Nigerians doing amazing things in the world, young people, 25-year-olds, 22-year-olds doing amazing things. And I would just be so inspired. And I tell myself, they don't have two heads now. You know, if they can do it, so can I. If they can aim high, so can I. What do they have that I don't have? What are they doing that I cannot do? So I was really inspired by so many people. And so I took the inspiration and these motivations and I ran with it. I literally wrote it down. The Bible says that write the vision, make it plain so that those that see it will run with it. I wrote my vision down and I ran for years with my vision. And so I continued, and in my journey after school, I interned, I worked with leading architectural firms in Nigeria. I literally was a sponge, absorbing as much knowledge as I possibly could. I was just hungry. I was hungry for knowledge. I was hungry for, you know, new things. And um the Bible also says that wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom, but ensure that you get understanding, but in all you're getting, get understanding. That was literally me. I was looking for understanding and knowledge, literally in every setting, in every situation I could find myself. I just had this insatiable hunger for more. And so throughout my career, while I worked full time now, I had known from my fourth year of undergrad that I was going to pursue another degree after my master's degree in architecture. And so when I started working, I now started actively looking for schools, doing a lot of now I was knee deep into the process of applying, looking for ways to what the things I needed to do, the to-do list I needed to take, you know, all that I needed to do to ensure that it all pencils out at the end of the day. So the first thing I did was to clarify my goals. I literally clarified my goals. What exactly does Jesumi want out of life? What exactly does Jesumi want to achieve? Who exactly is Jesumi? This process took a lot of introspection. It required a lot of self analysis, self diagnosis, and self prescription. It required a lot of um, finding me, literally. Like I needed to find myself. And in doing so, I was able to also find who I wanted to be in life, and my aspirations grew, my goals grew the more I found myself. On the screen, I have a picture of Bruce Banner and Incredible Hulk, and I know that a lot of the young ones, a lot of the younger generation would obviously know these characters. But why I put this here was because for people that know about Marvel and or that read the comics, you know that Bruce Banner and Incredible Hulk, they're one and the same. They're the same person. However, um We know that when Hulk enters a space, his presence is known, his impact is known. You would know that somebody has entered. He doesn't just enter and you would literally know that somebody has entered a space. However, when Bruce Banner enters, he's more reserved. He's limited in his strengths and in his physical abilities, and his personality also wasn't helping. And that was how I felt while I was searching for me. I thought like I I felt like I was a Hulk on the inside, but a Bruce Banner on the outside, meaning that I had so much capacity. I felt like I had so much capacity, but I was limited in one way or the other. And in finding myself, I figured out that in order for me to get rid of this limitation or to propel me from where I was to where I want to be, I would need, you know, another degree. I would need to pursue it, a degree in a specific field that of my interest. And it was just a very holistic experience for me, I would not lie. And so after I decided what I wanted to do and who I was, then I started to research, look for the programs. Like I said earlier on, I had known that from the billboard in Covenant University. I had seen the top 10 universities in the world, so I began to read more about them, look at what they were offering, what in the individual courses were, the faculty, the students. I literally combed through every single website that there was, that was provided. The second thing I did was I networked extensively. I was on LinkedIn, I was on calls, I was literally making um I was literally making I was making taking large strides in reaching out to people. I would see somebody on LinkedIn and I'll message them, "Hello, please. I see that you're in Harvard, or I see that you're in MIT, and I aspire to be at MIT too. I aspire to be at Harvard. Would you like to have a brief virtual call with me? I have a couple of questions to ask." I was doing this. In fact, I created a spreadsheet that had over 200 names of people that I had reached out to, people that had emailed, people that had called, people that I had networked with. I reached out to alumni, I reached out to current students, I had conversations with professors. I literally started having conversations. I'm telling you, like virtual calls with professors at Harvard as far back as 2021, and I came into Harvard in 2024. So it was a journey. It was literally a journey for me. Then after doing all of that, it brought me to after I networked, I was able to understand, what's I was able to live or experience the school vicariously through the eyes of the students or through the eyes of the professors, you know. And I was able to like weigh my options. Okay, this school is offering this school is offering that, this school doesn't do this school doesn't do that, and literally it guided my thinking, it guided my application, it guided my literally everything I had to do. The networking helped me a lot. And so it got to the application list. And remember, I was talking about Bruce Banner and Incredible Hulk and talking about my limitations. Now I had found who I was and who I wanted to be. But the question is, how do I now convey who I am and who I aspire to be through a couple of sheets of paper, and expect that they will understand me? How do I express myself through my CV, through my statement of purpose, through my letters of recommendation? I literally had to sit down and, have my application revised over and over and over and over again to be sure that my whole application was speaking about Jesumi, the Jesumi that I have found, the Jesumi that I know, the Jesumi that I want people to know, right? And so I remember that my statement of purpose, I had a lot of my professors from Covenant University read it, my parents read it, my brothers read it, people I had met on LinkedIn read it. everybody that cared to read my statement of purpose read my statement of purpose and made corrections, and I took to their correction. It took a lot of reading and proofreading, correcting and editing and all of those things, but at the end of the day it was worth it. It was quite a laborious task, I'm not going to lie, but it was worth it at the end of the day. And so my entire application had to literally tell one story, and the story of who I am. And so after all of this, I submitted, and now it was a waiting game. The submission is usually in January, so and you hear back sometimes in May. And so it was the longest waiting period of my life. I waited and waited and waited, and hoping and hoping. But while I was waiting, I also needed to do scholarships. I also needed to get scholarships. Because I had known the funding structure that the school was offering, and I knew how much I would need to get, to cover the deficit. So while I was applying, I was also looking at scholarships. I was also reviewing different scholarships, external scholarships, internal scholarships, general scholarships, very specific scholarships, scholarships for women, scholarships for girls, scholarship for people in real estate, every scholarship that's called itself a scholarship, I would, read through, apply, look at the criteria and all of that. And it was quite it was a daunting task, because the scholarship applications also required a lot of application, like a lot of documentation. You had to write essays. There were some scholarships that required like 3 essays. There were some scholarships that required up to 7 essays. But at the end of the day, you know the goal, you know the plan, and you work towards it. And at the end of the day, you pray that it pans out. So after all said and done, after this long, long process. I'm telling you, my process took years. I know of someone who woke up one morning and decided to apply, and he applied and he got in. And that's amazing for him. Unfortunately for me, my journey wasn't like that. It was more of a longer journey, but within, like, in that journey I was able to find myself, and I think that was the most important thing for me. Find who I am, find what I love, find, I was able to find my purpose, you know and it was quite exciting. It was quite an exciting process in retrospect now, because in it wasn't that exciting, but now in retrospect, I see the advantage and the good things that it brought. And now we've applied. I got my acceptance letter in March of 2024, and it was the happiest day of my life. I was thrilled, I was excited. I shared with my family. My family was elated. Everybody was over the moon for me. And it just felt like everything was coming together, finally, after years, okay, finally God has seen me. God has crowned my efforts with success, and to God be the glory. And so now we are here learning about this sector called real estate, and trying to navigate a new terrain and um a new space. Can we still see my slides? Yes. Great. So, coming to Harvard, I initially, when I was thinking of real estate, I initially thought or assumed that real estate was a subsect of architecture. I thought real estate was a subcategory of architecture. However, remember I said that the Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. So get wisdom. However, in all you're getting, get understanding. In me getting understanding, I figured out, or I found out, that real estate is so wide and so diverse that architecture is a subset of real estate. Real estate literally speaks about the entire built environment, the built environment in its entirety, from land to infrastructure to place to people, to buildings, to everything, to services, to everything that makes up the built environment. And every other thing just falls under, one way or the other. And with the way the world is going now, we have huge challenges from housing crisis, climate change, equity and equality conversations. There is these things require a holistic thinking, and we can see that interdisciplinary the interdisciplinary nature or the holistic nature in real estate. For example, like I said earlier on, architecture is under real estate. There's real estate construction, there's real estate law, ESG, talking about the sustainability aspects of real estate, public private partnership, finance, and there are tons and tons and tons of aspects under real estate. And it was very interesting to come to this realization. This experience has so opened and broadened my mind to the possibilities that exist, to the numerous opportunities that exist. And it's such an interesting journey. And so, um now, as a now as a budding real estate professional, um I don't look at buildings as buildings anymore. I don't look at spaces as just, oh, this is a beautiful space, or this is a nicely designed space. Now I'm looking at things more holistically. I'm looking at things more critically. Yes, it could be nicely designed, but is it meeting ESG goals and criteria? Is it financially feasible? Now I know that with every line I draw on the computer, or with every square footage or square meterage of space, how much is this thing costing and how much is it generating? What is the internal rate of return of this space? How is this space going to pencil out? What are the financial implications of this space? How much do I need to lend? How much do I need to borrow to build this space? What are the legal implications of having this space? What are so many aspects of real estate and of building that I'm coming to appreciate, or have come to appreciate now. And so I don't look at buildings as just buildings anymore. I'm now looking at them from, you know, the business side of things, the investment side of things, the financial feasibility side of things, the public private partnership aspects, and even the financial modeling. There's it is so deep and so interesting also. And after all said and done, after this excitement, it now brings me to, okay, so where is Africa in all of this? Where is Nigeria in all of this? And it just opens my eyes to possibilities. How do we how do we how do we um reuse how do we reuse or rehabilitate distressed properties in Nigeria? There are tons. I was talking to a professor recently, and I was telling him about the paradox of increased vacant housing, despite the fact that real estate housing is thriving in sub-Saharan Africa. Everybody's building new house and selling, building new house and selling. What happens to the old abandoned houses? What happens to the dilapidating houses, across the street or behind your house? There's so many properties that are not being maximized. And now I look at them and I'm like, what is the highest and best use for properties like this? How can these properties that are laying fallow, how can they generate returns for the government or for private developers? What do I need to do, or how can they be of public realm benefits to the society? So I'm not looking at things from how to prefer solutions and how to be a solution. We're talking about housing affordability. Like I said earlier, we have a housing crisis, globally. And how do we make sure that housing affordability is more financially feasible? How do we create a more creative financial modeling to empower communities rather than displace communities, causing gentrification? And then how do we handle development, or how do we sponsor development that honor culture and embrace innovation, without taking away, without tearing us apart from who we really are, without tearing us apart from what our cultures are intrinsically, and, allowing our culture, our norms, our ourselves as Nigerians, as Africans, to show through our design. So, in conclusion, this journey has been very, very fulfilling. It has been amazing. It's one that I will not trade for the world. However, I also know that it's the beginning of a bigger and a greater mission. And I'm leaving everyone here with with a passage that says, "Seest thou a man diligent in his ways, he will stand before kings and not before mean men." And I wish everybody um the best. Thank you so much.
Right. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jesumi. I think your session has been quite interesting and exhaustive. Thank you and thank you. I mean, I think for me, among other things, the first thing was the challenge of getting to Harvard, and I think you did justice to it. Thank you for the very long session, about 200 about 200 contacts you had, and I think everyone. Thankfully, I know how exhausting that process was. I mean, and I can confirm that you did a lot of work to
Thank
get
you,
into it.
sir.
But I know all of the back and forth, all of the you know, uh, the puzzle you had to fill in. Well done, was a
Thank
good
you.
one, and I think we commend your resilience to get that done.
Thank you,
So I
sir.
think we just ask a couple of questions. We also have on the screen today we have Oche Ajoye, an architect as well, uh, studying MSc design in this essence now focusing on visualization. Well, Oche, it's good to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And I think we also have Pelumi Ogedengbe. Pelumi Ogedengbe is in University of Hull in the United Kingdom, studying master's degree in advanced energy technologies. Interestingly, the three persons here finished from my alma mater, that is Covenant University. So I must say that, and it's interesting to know that I'm glad to have them here. And well, by the way, I must also say it. I think Pelumi and Oche were my students a couple of years ago. So it's good to have you guys on this platform. I'm proud of you guys and the work you are doing.
Thank you, sir.
Pelumi also was a Stellian student from Covenant University. We worked together on the Heart Legacy project a couple of years ago. In the last, I think about two years ago, before he took off to get a second degree. And so I think it's good to have us. We'll be going just right into the panel session. And I think a couple of questions. And this time around now, I will start with Oche and Pelumi. Uh, Jesumi, you were able to answer a question I will have asked you, and that is the question about how challenging it was to get into Harvard. I think that we don't have to sweep that again. You did justice to that, and I think we also have on the panel. Okay, that's Joyce. Joyce is our community manager, and so she'll be handling the questions once I just lay the foundation for this conversation. So I think quickly I will just ask uh, that question also from Oche and Pelumi. You can answer maybe Oche first, then Pelumi. Okay, how challenging was it for you to get into Lincoln in Sweden, and the same for Pelumi in the United Kingdom?
Um, okay, thank you very much, sir, for the question. Um, for me, my experience in Sweden getting into Linköping University was quite straightforward. Here they have a system where you can actually just go on. There's a site called universityadmissions.se, and then you actually have the opportunity to choose about four universities and like four courses. So the thing is, you prioritize the course you want to do. It's going to be your first choice, and then you have three other choices. So the thing is, if you do not get into the first one, chances are very excellent that you get into the second or the third or the fourth. Now there are advantages to getting into the first choice. You kind of benefit from like locally funded scholarships, and then you can also apply for the state-funded scholarship, which is the SI scholarship. And so for me, I got one of those choices, and then it was a very straightforward process. Visa also was quite straightforward. Here it's pretty they make it easy once you are a legit serious focused visionary person, and once they run their background checks on you and see that you are actually here for studies, the process is pretty much easy to get into the school. um, there there also has the criteria, the typical criteria for getting into schools, like recommendation letters from your referees. You have to write a statement of purpose. All of those things are also required here. But the process for me, especially because of the level of feedback I got from the Swedish institution responsible, it was really easy for me to get information. Everything, literally everything, is actually on the university admissions website. So I would encourage anybody who is looking to toe the same path to not feel like the process is cumbersome or discouraged. You can actually just apply. Once the application process is ongoing, you apply. Most likely, you get one of the four. The probability of getting one school at least is very high, and so you just need to follow up with the other legal documents. So that was the experience for me. The harder part was integration, but I don't think this is the right time to get into that now. I'll just leave. I'll leave it to Pelumi, so that we can go on. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah. So
All right.
Pelumi.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity to be on this platform and the privilege as well. So for me, coming to the UK, I had to do a lot of like talking to people that were already here, or people that recently just got in, to ask them how they did it. What most of them will tell you is do your research, check into the program, have a list of what you want to do, why you want to do it. So I didn't want to like jump into it so I don't make mistakes. So I gave myself like a 1 year target. So I checked into the university I wanted. I knew I wanted to do something related to sustainability and the way I can like integrate it into my structural engineering experience. So firstly, I met like a first obstacle, which was the fact that I had to do an English language requirement test, which was the IELTS. So I took some time to work on that, even with the also and boss of the Act Legacy project, the whole pressure and everything. But yeah, I did that. I passed that. So basically, I felt like admissions in the UK is straightforward as far as you're ready to walk through the process. Just like Oche said, if you're legit, you know you want to actually go there and study. And you meet all the requirements and criteria. It's so much easier. What most people find challenging is the funding and financing, but there's a lot of like scholarships and stuff like that that can help you out in that aspect. So the first thing I did when I found the university I wanted to go to, I I sent a mail to the admissions department of my my reasons why I want to join and everything like that. So I was sent a link and a list of requirements they will need. So I add all my documents together, my IELTS results, your CV, your statement of purpose. So you use all that to do your application. And when you get your application, your acceptance, it's going to be like a conditional offer. So they will tell you if you need to make like some additional informations available to them. So for me, it was basically the financing. So you have to like pay some certain amounts to get your conditional acceptance statement, which is what you use to apply for your visa. So the visa aspect as well is very straightforward. As far as you have your documents, you're good to go. So I wasn't so stressed about that. I did my application, and to the glory of God, it was all good, and I was able to leave the country in a few months. So yeah, it's not so challenging as far as like the advice they gave me in the past as well. As far as you do your research, you make sure your documents are concise and well arranged. You're good to go.
All right, thank you very much,
Okay.
Palumi. Well, I think Jesumi, you tried to answer a lot of questions that I will have asked you in your presentation. So I think you kind of picked my brain, fantastic, and you try to kind of guess the questions that will ask you. So that was a smart move from you, but I'll still get you. So, but I think one question for you and the panelists is now, how is your new knowledge shaping your perspective of the industry? By that, I mean, how is your new knowledge, for instance, in real estate, in advanced technologies, in design and realization, shaping your perspective to solving the biggest problems within the construction industry? So, Pelumi, sorry, Jesumi, I think we can start from you.
Okay. Um, for me, I feel that if you don't keep up with trends, you will become redundant. And being here, learning all of this has just literally opened my eyes to possibilities I never knew existed. Now we're talking about technology, we're talking about AI, we're talking about chat GPT, and these technologies are breaking into the real estate space, you know, opening doors for prop tech, opening doors for technology to express itself in real estate. And I would say that this experience has been very enlightening, and it has shown the need to continuously learn or to be a long life learner so that you don't become redundant in your field. It is so easy to sit on your hands and be at ease in Zion, but when you realize that the world is moving at such a rapid rate that if you're not careful, you'll be old school before you blink, so I say all of this to say that the experience has been very enlightening for me. I see more opportunities in the technology space within real estate, and these technologies are expressing themselves in construction, in design, in financial modeling, in ESG performance, in now we're talking LED building, lead buildings, sustainable designs and stuff like that. So yeah, I see that technology is going to literally take over the world.
Okay, okay, thank you very much. I think that says it. Pelumi, yes,
Yes,
over
sir.
to you.
Uh, so earlier, the master's degree I studied is advanced electric technologies for buildings and industries. So I'll say my understanding of that particular course has given me a new lens to viewing construction, not just in terms of like the structure or the design, but in terms of like long-term performance, energy use, and environmental impact. So some strong points I always found out will be on integrating sustainability from the design stage. So like I now know how to like understand how to incorporate energy efficiency principles right from the early stage of the project, from building orientation to insulation, glazing, material selection, stuff like that. These are very important aspects of a project, not just laying foundations and then building and then people just going there and start living in there. Also, I'll say it has given me a bigger perspective in terms of promoting the use of renewable energy in buildings. And now, like, there are possibilities of evaluating and proposing integration of renewable systems like solar, geothermal, energy storage into buildings, and then also improving building performance analysis. Like for a country like Nigeria, we have a lot of sunlight that can be harnessed into solar energy. Uh, so these are some of the understandings that I feel like I've gained from this course. It has helped me understanding how to drive sustainability policies and standards, developing or influencing building codes, sustainability standards. Just like Jesumi said, like the lead certification is quite a big deal here. So there's the lead and then there's the BREEAM certifications for building. So this is basically where you make sure your building is energy efficient, environmentally sustainable. And there's in the UK currently there's a goal of making the construction industry net zero by 2050. So yeah, that's a bit of some understanding I've gained from this course.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, Oche, now over to you.
Yes. My experience here in Sweden has been sort of related to what I was doing back in Nigeria. I've always had this this drive to want to kind of get better in visualization and like pushing the boundaries of what visualization can do, both for the architect and for the client. And so when I saw design and advanced visualization, it was just like a no-brainer. Just before I left my previous assignment, we were trying to get into this visualization experience where the clients could walk into the building with the VR headset, and all of those things are really exciting. Unfortunately, due to time constraints, those were not possible. But when I came here, actually, just not to digress, but that is what I'm doing for my thesis, my master's thesis now. Is kind of doing a digital twin where I actually use VR to build the experience. Now, over to the course. Respectfully speaking, it has been a paradigm shift from what was obtainable in Nigeria in terms of not just the practical hands-on department or component of the course. It was um, created to also build like critical thinking, so things like norm creative processes, decoloniality in design, how co-creation and participatory design should actually influence design, not just in architecture, but in like product design, UI, UX. So it's like for the sake of the lack of the humanities in the universities now, this department was created to kind of teach designers. So I have people like communications designers, people that work in textile, fashion, people that work in UI, UX, and architects in the course as my course mates. So it's not just a course for maybe the construction or architecture world. It's a course that kind of teaches you how to design. So like I mentioned, co-design processes, participatory design processes, norm-critique perspectives in design, like even femininity, decoloniality, all these things, and how it relates, how these theoretical abstract dimensions in design can actually influence the designer to build better. For instance, co-design, it's something that normally isn't so practiced in Africa. It's something that is missing because what we have is like a top-down approach. You have a brief, and you work with your team to kind of construct or flesh the brief out, and then you meet a deadline, you hand the design over. Here, it kind of breaks it down for you in the sense of having to actually also involve the users. So it is a co-creative process. Design is for the users. It's like democratizing the design process because eventually it's not going to be the architect or the clients alone that is going to use the building. It's going to be the users. So it teaches you is a cultural shift actually from the way we typically design in Africa. Is you also have to get the stakeholders involved in the design process, and you have to think culturally. You can't just impose Eurocentric norms, native norms, predefined norms. You kind of have to rethink, relearn, reappropriate the design process. So now the design starts from the abstract. It's not just about doing the lines. It's not just about doing the drawings. Not just about the visualizations. Actually, it's kind of challenges you to think deeper, to think better, to redefine what the design process should be. So it is more process based than product based, is what I'll say about the course.
All right, thank you very much to our panelists. and to our guest, Jesumi. Well, I think one more question for me, for Jesumi, before I will hand it over to Joyce. She has some questions as well. So, Jesumi, I think we need to give us a little bit deep dive into your work in terms of your your degree program. And I mean, you've shared generally, and so maybe you want to zoom into now having gotten into real estate masters. Okay, so what specific areas are you looking at? Solving problems back here in Nigeria, in Africa, and maybe in case you want to do some work in the US. So, what specific areas are you already, looking at?
Okay, so my work here, first of all, the curriculum here is very holistic, such that we touch on every aspect. So I do real estate law. I take classes. I take a real estate law class. I take public-private development. I take affordable housing. I do real estate design. I do real estate finance and advanced finance. So it's very holistic. But for me, I'm still trying to figure out exactly. But one of my goals for Nigeria is to prefer solutions to the housing crisis, look for ways to make affordable housing pencil out for both the governments, private developers, and the users. That is my main goal, just to ensure that everyone has a roof over their heads. It's housing is, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, housing shelter is one of the top ones, and it is imperative that everyone has a shelter. And my goal is to ensure that I contribute to the solutions, to the housing solution in Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's an area that I'm sure with your newfound knowledge, you'll be able to help in that area. It's an area that has been on. Previously was about 19 million in housing deficit.
Yeah,
I I learned it's now more than that.
yeah, 24.
Okay, about okay, good. And it's about 25 now thereabout. So it's a major area
Yeah.
that I think we need to unravel. So I think picking interest in that area is such a good one, and I wish you well. I know that with your resilience, you'll be a champion in
Thank
trying to solve
you.
that problem. Don't worry, there are a lot of researchers down here who are doing a lot of work in that space. So I'm sure your contribution will also add to that field. So I think
Thank
I'll just
you.
let Joyce ask a few questions that she has before we also take questions from from the audience. Yes, Joyce, your questions.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
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 First of all, I want to say a very big thank you to everyone that um, agreed to be on this program. Jesumi, thank you so much for your presentation. It's been very enlightening. I'm sure that a lot of people have gotten one or two, from the presentation that you made. And I'm also very sure that some questions that they've been trying to get answers to, they should have been able to get some answers from you. Thank you, Pelumi, and thank you, Oche, for agreeing to be a part of this as well, for being a part of the panel session. So one of the major questions we want to ask is we want to find out about culture shock. What is it like for you, moving from Nigeria to somewhere totally different? I'm sure there's some things that you've experienced and then you're like, I didn't know things actually happen like that. So we would like to find out from you, what's your experience like with culture shock? Pelumi, please could you give us an answer first? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I'll say there are actually a lot of culture shock, but the culture shock for me is in like smaller ways. First of all, it was the weather. Jesus, is something else. In Nigeria, you have weathers of up to like 30 degrees, 34 degrees. Like even in the office, when your aircon is on, when you're on like 16 degrees, you still feel a bit cold. But when I got into the country, it was during the winter period. It was It was 12 degrees, 11 degrees. I was literally in my winter jacket and I was still shaking. It was that crazy. So yeah, that's one of the first ones. And also I'll say the classroom culture, like how people interact with their lecturers, professors, like everyone is happy to help. Everyone is there's no fear of like, oh, okay, this lecturer might be too harsh or something like that. You can approach anyone and they will be happy to help you. That's literally the culture here. Uh, I'll say I felt when I came in, I felt a bit isolated, like because I had no family here. It was just me. So like the school made it so easy for you to like join so many cultural societies. You meet up with new people, like minds. There will be so many Nigerian groups. Even when you meet with the British people as well, it's so everyone's so friendly. So I'll say if you eventually come, anyone who's trying to come to the UK, be open-minded, give yourself grace, and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's what I'll say.
Right.
Okay, thank you so much. That's really I want to, you know, sympathize with you, especially regarding the weather. I've had, some of my friends tell me about, how the change in weather is really like a major thing
Yeah,
for them. And I believe you've kind of found the coping mechanism, right?
yeah, definitely, definitely.
Okay,
It's a bit
that's
better now.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Jesumi, would you want to share with us your
Yeah,
culture shock
sure.
experience?
Yeah, sure. I'll start from the weather too. It was redonkulously cold when
Oh
I
wow.
came. Yes. Although like I came during summer, but their summer here is not the summer we know in Nigeria. It was so cold. I was wearing my sweater, I was always wearing my jacket, and then winter came around, and winter was for so long. I
Mm.
remember we were having like minus 20 degrees. It would snow. I would not have the energy to go to class because it's snowing. So it was just a lot. Like the weather really, and then we had daylight saving stuff where, it got dark really, really, really early. By
Yeah,
4 p.m., 5 p.m. is already dark. And I'm like, why? In Nigeria, when it's dark, it's time to go to bed. But here you're in class.
I understand.
Experiencing this darkness, so that happened. And then I think also changing environment. I started to have breakouts on my skin, like I started to have pimples unprovoked, and that was an issue. Then another culture shock was the food. The food was it was fooding. But I guess you learn to deal with it. Then oh, one big one for me was splitting of costs. In Nigeria, where you're when you invite people to your events, you cover the costs because you're bringing them out. But here, everybody splits the cost. You pay for what you're eating or what you want. And that was a huge culture shock. And then another one was class participation. Um, Here you're graded based on how much you participate in class, and it's very different from class in Nigeria where you sit down and you listen to the lecturer or the professor speak for um 2 hours or 3 hours. But here you need to interact, you need to do your readings, you need to challenge ideologies and theories, and just speak out a lot in class because it's all graded. So those were my culture shocks.
Oh, that would be a very major thing for introverts amongst us to actually pay attention to. If you're someone that, you normally don't, say a lot in class, you have to actually learn to at least
Yeah.
participate, and be a part of the session. All right, so
Hmm.
Oche, let's hear from you. What was your culture shock experience like?
Yeah, thank you. It's quite similar to what the two others said. First, I'll start with the weather. Weather is just, I don't know, very horrible. Minus 15 degrees, it could get in the north, or even minus 20. Um, Fortunately, where I stay is kind of central. It's like south. So, but when I came, it was still very cold. I mean, I can't remember one time during my first 6, 7 months where I didn't have like a winter jacket going out. And that's so different because in Nigeria, you just want to get food, you can stroll out with like shorts and, just go go out and get something to eat. But here you cannot, you can't try it. You have to always be on guard, always kitted, with like 2 layers of socks and all of that. And then the darkness thing too was something very new to me. Could get dark from like 2 o'clock in the winter, 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. You know, and
Wow.
so it was very different to me. People were getting sad, depressed, and fortunately, my spirit doesn't allow for any of that. I know what the mission is, so depression doesn't apply to me. So, but it was actually very difficult to understand it at first. Now, by the help of God, we are kind of getting used to it. Communication is another one. The communication in the school is actually different from the Swedish society because Swedes are largely very introverted. Like you could sit next to somebody in the bus, and then, in fact, sitting next to someone in the bus is more like an unsaid taboo here. They like to, if you have like a seat beside you in the bus, it is rude for someone to take that seat because for some reason it's just like this unsaid rule that we were told at first. It's more polite to just maybe stand, but sitting next to the person might be considered rude. So people don't actually talk to each other as much here. People they are not rude per se. They are very polite people actually if you get to meet them, but they like to keep their space. So that was different. But in the schools, the reverse was the case. The lecturers are very, like Pelumi said, very open. You're not even allowed to call them by their titles, doctor or senior lecturer. No, no, no. You call them by their names. And I remember the first class I had, I was like, sir, and the man said, no, 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 don't do that. This place, everybody is the same, you just address me by my name, Jonas. So till today, I still find that very hard to do. Maybe it's the Nigerian in me, but I don't know. Thirdly, it's also the cashless thing. Some of us came here with cash. Um, didn't spend it because nobody takes cash here. It's just 100% cashless. I think it's just a few stores, grocery stores that take cash. So I had to find a way of, doing my money thing differently. It's super cashless. Nobody accepts cash. So that was also a very huge culture shock for me because of where I was coming from. And then the food is also something else that here they are known for their potatoes. So if you like mashed potatoes, Irish potatoes, you have a lot of potatoes here. If you give me potatoes now, I would not eat because I've eaten too much potatoes already. And their food, the list of food here is quite, of course, is quite different from what we have back home. If you like sweets, like sweet things, ketchup, all of those things, you find it very easy to stay here. But for us Africans, it's different. However, there's like African shops where you can actually go get something more tailored to your need here. So I would say those are the four major culture shocks I experienced here. Yeah,
Oh,
thank
wow.
you.
So, thank you so much for sharing that experience with us. It seems if you're an introvert, you would like Sweden
Absolutely, hundred
because
percent.
it's like the flip, you know.
Yes.
If you're an
Yeah.
introvert, you would like Sweden. So, we also like to find out if you had any experience sourcing for scholarships. I mean, just me give us a bit of a breakdown of what it was like trying to get scholarships. Applying from different angles. She mentioned applying from the real estate angle, applying from the I'm a woman angle, applying from the architect. She was just looking at different, aspects. So for Oche and Pelumi, we would like to find out from you, did you have any experience, trying to get scholarships for your program? Yes or no? And then what was that experience like?
Um, Girls, should I go first?
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
let's have Oche first. Yes.
Okay, okay,
Sorry.
okay. Yes. I had an experience trying to source for that, the scholarships here. I think I applied for the SI scholarship program. It's basically a Swedish funded program, government funded program, where if you have an admission and you can tailor your admission letter to meet what they require, then you'd be eligible. But the thing is, it's quite difficult to get. I applied, to be honest, I did not get it, but I have a friend, a very close friend, who got it. And it's like I said, from 42 countries. Nigeria is one of the countries. So if they find, I think it's also very program based. If they find your program to have like a sustainability element to it, because here is known as the sustainability capital of the world. Like there's a lot of green tech, green architecture initiatives happening here. So they would encourage people who are applying for SI scholarships to kind of find a course that is related to sustainability, and then it gives you a higher chance of getting in. And then the schools also offer scholarships, although the criteria is number one, you have to choose the school you are in as the first choice, and that doesn't even guarantee it. I think it's like 50% scholarship for the school. So if you have a first choice school, like I had mentioned earlier, and the school gives you an admission, then because it was your first choice, you're also eligible for that scholarship. Um, I didn't also get that one. So throughout my 4 semesters here, I've, by the help of God, been able to fund myself locally. And then to the other question, I forgot to mention one other thing that was a culture shock: the language. I mean, this is a no-brainer. So let me just put that in. It was they said they speak English here, but English is not the main language. It's actually even considered rude if you come and say, "Do you speak English?" You know, because it's Sweden, so you shouldn't ask if they speak English. You should, at least to an extent, understand the common languages, the common phrases used here to communicate. So that was absolutely a culture shock to me too. Yeah.
All right.
Wow. Pelumi, could we
Yeah.
get away from
So
you?
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah. Same for me. I also didn't get a scholarship. I tried to get one, but I wasn't able to get it because for my particular school, the scholarship was, they call it the Vice Chancellor Scholarship. So basically, it's like a raffle kind of draw kind of thing. So anyone could get it, but I didn't. But I would say a lot of schools in the UK actually offer scholarships, but it also comes with balancing the fees as well. Because when the school says the fee is £25,000 and they're offering, let's say, £10,000 scholarship, and then there's a school, um, the fee is £12,000 or £15,000, no scholarship. And then when you check the ranking of the schools, they are basically the same or the same kind of ranking. So you also like think about your choices as well. So mine, I tried to get scholarships, but I couldn't get it. But the school I eventually went to, the fee was about £12,000. So I also had to like fund locally myself with the help of my parents and my amazing sister as well. So, but I'll say if you're willing to come to the UK, if you start early, you plan early, there are a lot of scholarships out there, and you can tailor your application to that. So even like small awards or scholarships from like your local NGOs or even in Nigeria, there are scholarships that will help you with living costs in the UK and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, so the statement that you made, if you want to come to the UK, if you start applying early, it would
Yeah.
also help, because that kind of like answers the next question I wanted to ask. Depending on how you answer this question, what do you think could make it easy for someone to get scholarships? Quite all right. You applied for some and you didn't get them. Maybe you have maybe information that you think if you did so and so differently, you could have you will have gotten a better chance of getting that scholarship. So what advice could you give regarding getting scholarships, something that they can do to make it easier for them to get the scholarships? Pelumi, please could you start off?
Yeah. So first of all, I would say your academic transcripts. That's definitely a very big help. So an advice I would say is what you do now will definitely affect what happens in the future. So if you are currently doing your undergrad, I would say put more effort into your academics, your communication skills, your interpersonal skills. So it's not always about like your academics per se. How you relate with people also kind of matters. So how you write, how you read, how you speak. So, but majorly, I'll say your academic transcript that will get you into a lot of places. What you finish with in your uni, you finish with the first class, or definitely you finish with the second class upper. That will definitely help. Then your statement of purpose, why you want to do the course, what's motivating you, your plans on what you're planning to do when you finish the project, when you finish the course, like your home country, what you're planning to do there, and stuff like that. So yeah, I'll say basically your application, your how good your application is. Then also try and get like a lot of information from like the schools you want to get into. Some of these scholarships are very limited, so they post some of them very early and within like 30 days they're probably out and they've already chosen like the people they want to give the scholarships to. So I'll say an early application process. That's a good way to start your research and then definitely your academic transcript as well.
Okay, that's very insightful. Thank you so much for that. Um, Oche, are there some things that you feel, could help people if they're trying to apply for scholarships? Maybe some things you wish you had information about earlier that you think could have also helped your application process?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things would be community engagement, because a lot of people who are looking for scholarships are very academic profile oriented. But here they also look at things such as the NGOs you are involved in, what your community service profile is, like what you've done outside school. The SI scholarship is actually called a leadership scholarship. So, what leadership positions have you held in the past? Obviously, your academic transcript and qualifications are also very important, but they look beyond that. And then, secondly, the course you're trying to go for has to be just find a way of relating it to sustainability, because that question is going to come up even in the form. It's like, how does this course kind of channel towards sustainability and sustainability development goals in the future? So anybody looking to come with the SI at least should have to answer those questions. Find yourself some kind of NGOs, get involved with the community, use that to build your profile, get certifications. There are no limits to the certifications you should get if you're coming here. I mean, I know somebody who his CV was packed. When I didn't get it and I saw the guy's CV, I understood why maybe I didn't get it, and I found peace with it. So it was it was an eye opener, and so that's what I would say. Find some other outside community development work. You should add that to your CV. Also, make sure that you are academically sound. You have very good grades, very good transcripts, and then you stand a very good chance. And also integrate sustainability into your course. Make sure you choose something you can relate to sustainability, at least in the larger picture. Yes. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot to take in. Before, I believe Dr. Gbenga has a question he wants to ask, but before we, put him on, just me, please, could you give us, a little, you know, breakdown of what you think would help someone in their process of applying for scholarships? You were able to get, I
Yeah.
believe. So, what helped you? What are things that you feel, helped you get, and then some other things that you would have done differently too?
In addition to what Pelumi and Oche said, which are very cogent points, it's also important that you toot your own horn. As Nigerians, we're very conservative, we are very humble, we
Yeah.
don't want to talk too much, it's by God's grace kind of thing. But nobody is going to know that it's by God's grace here. You need to sound it from the rooftops that I've done this, I've led this initiative, I've inspired this number of people, I've help the company generate X amount of returns or X percentage of returns. Like you really need to scream it from the rooftop, your accomplishment and be unapologetic about it. I had a conversation with one of my mentors recently, and she was telling me that just you need to add more to your CV. You need to add more to your CV. All these things you're telling me, nobody's going to know that if you don't write it in your CV. And it was just from I don't want it's from a place of humility that I didn't want to add it, but like we are humble internally, but on paper, let's like show, write our accomplishments, because these are the things that the organizations, the scholarship body would look at to know if you should be awarded the scholarship or not. Another thing I would suggest is network with people that have gotten the scholarship in times past, because they are aware of some things you're not aware of. Sometimes the information on the website or whatever information is flying around may not be comprehensive enough for you. So it is always better to network with people that have gotten the scholarship, and they'll be able to give you, inside information and how best to position yourself, strategies to use that they used to succeed and that you can also use to succeed. So those are my 2 points.
And what better way to get this information early than watching design studies, where you get details from people who have been through the process before? Thank you so much, everyone, for the information and the insights that you have shared with us today. I'll hand it over to Architect Benga to carry on from here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Joyce. I think there's a question on the screen. What are the plans after school? Do you do the schools you attend give you opportunity to pursue your goals after school, or do you have plans that you already have before applying? So I think we can let when we will start with the chair, and then we take it round. Yes, do you have plans after school?
Mhm. Yes. Oh, yes, I do. My people will not be happy with me if I just leave it to chance. I have a roadmap. I have well, for starters, is about getting your stay. By all means, you don't want to be in Europe or in any of these countries without like a legitimate stay. And how do you get that? You kind of have to get a job. So this is where a lot of people who are in their final semesters are, networking with companies. This is where you polish your LinkedIn profile, upload everything about your thesis, talk to companies, do your applications, do your job applications, and have a strategic goal in mind. For me, I know I want to work something IT related, and that is why I even chose Sweden in the first place, because it's actually like the IT boom here. Um, so the course I'm doing right now is not just like 3D modeling or visualization. There's also an IT component in it. I'm doing a lot of scripting, visual scripting, using software, a lot of software. And I also see that there's a demand for that kind of skill here. And so I would like to transition into a field that is relevant to what I studied. As to saying whether the school gives you an opportunity to pursue your goals, I'm actually doing my thesis with a company right now, and there are already talks about how maybe we can do like an industrial PhD or kind of work with them after the thesis and all of that. So it's also very important who you choose to do your thesis with, and just take it as like a start, like you're working for free at least for those 6 months, and who knows what might happen. You might get hired permanently. You might use the opportunity to leverage on your job applications. And so for me, it has been quite an instructive 6 months. I plan that after school I'll get something related to my field, something very relevant to my field. Yes.
Right. So Palumi, take a
Yes,
shot.
so yeah, so for me, I've always been flexible with my post-study or work experience and stuff like that. I've always been someone that's very tech savvy. I love working in the IT department of any company, and I also love the construction aspect of it. So currently, right now, I work with Vodafone. I'm an online website assistant with them. But I also, to keep in touch with my construction parts, I also work with a private contractor. to gain some UK work experience because that is what is valued here. They will expect you to have some UK, not just your home experience where you only have you work with the British standard and the Euro code. They also want you to have the UK experience, like just to improve your communication skills, how you present and stuff like that. So right now I'm also still applying to companies, putting myself out there, like what you said, updating your LinkedIn, toot your own horn and stuff like that. I've had a few I've had some interviews with Arop, done some video interviews, hopefully. But yeah, those are my right now currently I'm currently employed, but I would also love to I also love to work with a construction in a construction company where I can also put what I've learned here in the UK to use and to integrate that into my work as well. So yeah,
Okay.
those are the things right now. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. So, Jesumi, I think you will take the last shot, and I have my final question before we can begin to wrap up. Yes, Jesumi.
Okay, based the question asked, are there opportunities that the school offers? And I would say specifically for the school I'm in, there are tons and tons and tons of opportunities, and it is at your convenience. You're the one that decides whether or not you want to take up these opportunities. Um, and the other part of the question asked that did I have a goal or a plan before coming? Did I have my own plan? Yes, I definitely had my own, or I have a roadmap of where I want to be, what I want to do. And at this point, I'm just trying to navigate my career and build. And in this season, I'm soaking up as much information and experience and exposure that I can possibly gain to launch me into where I want to be, in future.
Okay. I think a bit of a network issue. Okay. Okay, Jesumi, are you there?
Yes. Did you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I think at the point we lost you towards the tail end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, I just said that in summary, I said that I am in this moment, I am soaking up everything I possibly can, every experience, every opportunity, every exposure that I can possibly can. And, cumulatively, these experiences will launch me to where I want to be or where the future Jisumi wants to be.
Okay, thank you very much. Right. So I think one last question for Jesumi before we wrap up. Now, I know you, I mean, Harvard is big on networking. So I want you, and we've discussed, we've had that conversation. Can you do some kind of a deep dive on your experience with networking? Having studied in Harvard or studying in Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say, like you rightly said, Harvard is really huge on networking. And going to Joyce's point about how an introvert will survive, it will be really difficult, to be honest, because there is one networking event after the other. Like, you're expected to make connections at every single point, in in your life. And here, so many events that you have to attend and have conversations with people. And coupled with the fact that one of the scholarships I got, the Gold Initiative, is also they're also huge on networking. As a matter of fact, at the last gala we had in September last year, we had something called networking on steroids, where we stood for hours talking to industry professionals, and it has literally built my confidence more. I'm able to speak off the bat without um prior knowledge, especially to people I don't know, and give them like a brief synopsis of who I am and what I do and what I aspire to do. But all in all, yes, Harvard is huge on networking. They believe in making meaningful connections. You don't know if you're sitting next to you're sitting beside the next president of the United States, or you're sitting beside the next business mogul, or the next founder, or the next vice president. So they expect that you maximize these relationships through active networking.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Kalumi and Oche, I think if you can give us some bit of insight into your experience with networking, and then we can wrap it up at this point. Yes. I think Oche first.
Okay. For me, one of the highlights of the networking events I've been to happened in December last year. It wasn't actually school related. I found this conference that was happening in Malmo here, and I decided to attend because of just the big weights that I saw labeled in the conference. It's actually related to tech too. It's called the Ready Institute Conference. Happens every year, and you have companies like L'Oreal, Microsoft, IBM in attendance. And so I just made it a point to go and actually talk to these people. And I was quite surprised as to how much they were open to have a conversation. After the event, they were seated. You could just go approach them, sit with them, talk with them, ask them about opportunities, ask them about what they do, how relevant your skills are. A lot of them ask for CVs, asked to send your website to them. A lot of them were responsive after connecting with them on LinkedIn. And these are really big companies. I mean, Microsoft in Sweden, L'Oreal, IBM. These are the cream of the crop. And for me, it was really eye-opening. It made me to see another dimension of not just my career or studies, like the business dimension, establishment here. And I also saw a lot of people from Africa, which was really inspiring. And the work they were doing here in Sweden. I mean, one owned an organization where he kind of helps people to integrate digitally, and it is government sponsored. Has a lot of investors in it, and so a lot of the things they do here in Sweden, if you want to pay for a service, if you want to stream and all, everything happens online. So a lot of migrants who come in who aren't really tech savvy, the person provides like this platform where they can actually learn basic computer skills, and he's making a lot of money from it. And I got to talk to this person, doesn't have two heads, shares the same color of skin with me. So it was just really eye opening. It was also an eavesdropping to see how it was possible for me to achieve the same feat. And it just exposes you to a different aspect of life, knowing that it is possible and getting inspired. And so the networking opportunities here are endless. I mean, there's like one every month, where you can attend as a student. There are also student or school organized networking programs where companies come in actually to just have conversations. So yeah, I would advise, employ anybody who is looking to Sweden to know for a fact, for a surety, that it's really networking big. And like Jesumi said, you cannot afford to be kind of introverted. You have to, even if you have that disposition as your personality, you have to push yourself. If not, things won't happen. Let me just put it that way. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my two
Okay.
cents.
So I think thank you very much, Oche. That's fantastic. I'm sure that you now have some kind of flip flop with your personality, right?
Well, if not, you. I don't want to talk, but yes, yes, I do. I
Or
do.
all
Obviously.
right, Kalumi. Let's hear from
Yeah.
you.
So for me as well, it's the same. It's the same thing. For people that know me, I'm an introvert. Yes. But the thing is, this country and your dreams as well, your goals, your ambition, they will shape you. So I had to come out of my shell. I had to go to a lot of like networking events. So like the university, there's like a very big hub where they like post a lot of like networking events where companies come around to ask you about like your aspirations. You also like ask them questions. You tell them your goals. Like if there are companies you find attractive where you feel like you want to like learn from them, you speak to them, tell them you ask them what they want, what they will want in an applicant and stuff like that. And this will really help you to like tailor your applications into those companies. You get to like know more about them, get to like find out why you would actually want to work for them. I feel like that's a really big help in like getting employment opportunities or even just getting like normal informations about life in general. So yeah, there are a few networking events I've been to which have been really eye-opening in my search. So that's basically it. So.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Pelumi. Thank you, Oche, and thank you, Jesumi. I think it's been a very insightful session. For our panelists, thank you very much. You did a great job in giving us a diverse perspective to the conversation today, and particularly the fact that you were able to situate the issue of sustainability as an area that everyone in construction today needs to really focus on. That's the future, but that's the now. That's the now. So thank you very much. I mean, your conversation, three of you, revolved around sustainability, and that's a big one. And so thank you very much. Jesumi, thank you very much for uh, you simply shared your heart with us. I mean, and I saw how you were very meticulous in sharing your journey from your school days, 15 years back. Your painting, that painting should be worth $1 million in a couple of years now. And of course, that's your very interesting MSc thesis. I know we share some kind of bond in that area of church architecture. Well done, no problem. And I think, in particular, the fact that you've showed us that it's possible. Yes, Harvard is a great place to be, but and of course, I know the acceptance rate is very, 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 very tough. But I think getting there, you've showed that you deserve to be there. You spent about 3 to 4 years crafting that journey, and so thank you very much. And to our two panelists, Oche Ajoy, I miss you. I'm sure you know that. Well, it's good. We have to have that. But I mean, I'm glad at what you are doing. I mean, that's what we discussed about. And Pelumi, thank you. You disappeared just like that, and now I can see you back here. And I think I want to thank you for your time, and to our audience. In about a month time from now, but I think by May 11th we'll be having another session. The goal is to kind of have that convergence of conversation that could lead to innovation within the construction industry, and particularly share from different culture regarding construction postgraduate program. And we hope that we can inspire a lot of people to take steps, to take action, and to learn better. And of course, we can do better. I want to say thank you very much. It's been a very enriching journey. It's our first episode, and we spent about 92 minutes. Thank you very much. I'm sure it's because of the caliber of our speakers and panelists. Thank you very much for your very unique journeys. And to our audience, thank you, and see you in about a month time from now. Thank you. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, sir.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you very much.